Take a deep breath and step onto the streets of Los Angeles in the early 1950s. A time so different from our own, it feels like a dream. Picture this. The soft hum of vintage engines fills the air. A sound so gentle, it's as if the city itself is humming a lullaby. These weren't just streets. They were the quiet arteries of a simpler life, flowing with a peace we can barely imagine today. There were no blaring horns to shatter the silence, no frantic crowds shoving past one another, just a calm, unhurried rhythm that wrapped the city in a warm embrace. Drivers nodded to each other with a smile, their polished cars gleaming under the morning sun, while kids darted across the pavement, their laughter echoing down the block. The roads stretched out wide and clean, free of litter, free of chaos, a canvas of order and pride. Look at these scenes now, frozen in time, and feel that tug at your heart. This was a Los Angeles where streets meant more than movement. They were a promise of serenity, a gift we've long since lost to the grind of modern days. These streets weren't just paths, they danced with a life all their own. Cars rolled by, not in a rush, but with a kind of grace we've forgotten, their chrome bodies shining like treasures under the California sky. They weren't mere machines back then. They were symbols of hard work and hope, driven by men who took pride in every mile. Families gathered at bus stops, mothers clutching their children's hands, fathers tipping their hats to neighbors, all waiting patiently, turning a simple ride into a shared moment. Traffic moved like a slow waltz, each car yielding to the next. No anger, no haste, just a steady flow that felt alive. You could hear it, the low purr of engines, the faint tap of a friendly horn, the murmur of voices drifting through open windows. These roads carried more than people. They carried dreams of weekend drives to the coast, of new homes in the suburbs, of a future that seemed golden. But today, that dance is gone. We've replaced it with a cacophony of honks and screeches, with roads choked by impatience and exhaust. The streets of 1950s LA pulsed with a rhythm we can't hear anymore, a melody of simplicity drowned out by the chaos we've built in its place. The sidewalks of 1950s Los Angeles were alive with stories waiting to be told. Wide and spotless, they stretched out like ribbons through the city, carrying the weight of everyday joys. Mothers pushed strollers along these paths, their heels clicking softly while children raced each other, their shouts of glee bouncing off the low buildings. Neighbors paused mid-step to exchange hellos, their voices warm with familiarity. No rush, no isolation, just the ease of belonging. These weren't just walkways, they were the threads that wove a community together, block by block, step by step. You'd hear the jingle of a bicycle bell, the rustle of a newspaper tucked under an arm, the faint clatter of coins as a kid bought a soda from a street vendor. Every corner held a moment, a smile, a wave, a connection that made the city feel like home. But look at our sidewalks today, cracked and littered, stained with graffiti, empty of that spirit. We walk them alone now, heads buried in phones, deaf to the laughter that once filled the air. The soul of these streets, the heartbeat of a time when people mattered more than progress, has slipped through our fingers, leaving behind a silence that echoes louder than words. As dust settled over 1950s Los Angeles, these streets took on a quiet, timeless beauty. Streetlights flickered to life, casting golden pools across the pavement, guiding families home through a city that felt safe and sure. The roads glowed with a magic that only night could bring, a stillness broken only by the soft hum of tires and the distant chatter of evening routines. This was a Los Angeles where streets weren't just for rushing from place to place. They were for lingering, for living, for dreaming under a sky that seemed to stretch forever. Drivers eased their cars along, headlights cutting through the twilight, while kids lingered on corners, reluctant to end their games. But that magic didn't last. We've traded those gentle nights for neon glare and endless traffic, those safe streets for highways that roar with frustration. The lamps that once lit our way have dimmed, replaced by a cold, hurried world where no one stops to look up. These roads once whispered promises of community, of calm, of a life we could hold on to. Now they're silent, buried under layers of concrete and chaos, a shadow of what we've lost to time and neglect. In the stillness of these 1950s nights, you can almost hear the echo of what once was. These streets weren't just lines on a map. They were the lifeblood of a Los Angeles that thrived on simplicity and trust. Families walked these paths together, their footsteps blending with the hum of a city at rest, a city that knew how to pause and breathe. The roads carried more than traffic. They carried the weight of a generation's hopes, new jobs, new homes, new beginnings under a sky unclouded by worry. Every turn held a memory, every light a story, every mile a testament to a time when life moved slower and meant more. But that time has slipped away. We've paved over those hopes with asphalt and anger, drowned those stories in the din of horns and engines that never stop. The streets of today bear no trace of that pride. Their surfaces cracked, their purpose lost to a world that's forgotten how to care. We can't drive back to those nights, can't reclaim the peace that once defined the city. Yet as you watch these fading scenes, don't you feel it? That ache for a Los Angeles we'll never know again, a longing for streets that once held us close, now just whispers in the dark.